Love him the way that I love you. Just drop the mic there. Good afternoon, good evening to all those people out there. Welcome to 52/1993, the conversation show where we talk about movies from the year 1993. Welcome in. Glad to have you. If this is your first time joining us, go ahead and hit that follow button so you can watch us every week as we discuss these movies from 1993. My name is Cody Waits, Quatesy on here on Twitch, but you can call me by my God-given name, my actual parents' given name, Cody Waits. So basically what we're going to do on here is kind of what I already led with. We're going to take important movies released from 1993, kind of go in order of how they're released, and we're going to do that by weekend releases, so we're going chronologically. It doesn't matter if these movies are good or bad or how they were reviewed. I do have some criteria about how we choose these movies, but mostly it's, what was important that year to the people that were watching movies that year. So mostly from their box office success, like today's entry that we're going to be talking about. And then I just kind of chose, Best Picture nominees for this year from the Oscars, and then any other thing that I felt like was relevant for the year. This is a very fun, unique year. A lot of family movies this year as we go out. This movie that we're watching is not a family movie, but usually I'll have a guest to talk about that movie, and then we'll talk about a few other things afterward. Sometimes I'll interview them about their interest in movies, or maybe I'll talk about something that's going on currently in the zeitgeist of movies. But we'll go ahead and bring our guest in so we can go ahead and get started and talk about this movie. The guest this week, you've seen him, you love him, you are used to all of the things that he talks about. You see all of the great quotes that we get from him. In our intro video, he bit me with his butt and some other things. He's a wonderful person. Let's go ahead and bring him in here. This is Joseph Sawyer, and hopefully he's off mute. I've been toying with some things here recently with my mic settings and everything, so hopefully it's all working. Joseph, are you there?
I am here.
You are here. Perfect. It is working, and that's all I needed. How are you doing, my friend?
Doing good.
Good.
How's it going today?
Are you ready to talk about sex, baby?
Always, you know it.
Let's talk about you and me in this movie.
You and me.
That we're about to talk about. Well, always glad to have you on as a guest. You're one of my closest friends and one of the people that I love talking about movies with so much. So I look forward to every time we get on here and talk about these things. So I'll go ahead and thank you. I'll go ahead and kick things off, and we'll get started talking about our movie of the week. So unless you can see it playing in my background over this shoulder, I always get it confused. This is the Indecent Proposal. It was released on April 7th of 1993. It was directed by Adrian Lyne, who is famous for other movies such as Fatal Attraction, Unfaithful, Flashdance, and most recently he had a movie that went straight to Hulu called Deep Water with Ben Affleck and Ana de Armas. Some people like that movie, some people don't like that movie. This was written by Amy Holden Jones, and it was based on a book by Jack Engelhard, a very loosely adapted adaptation of that book. This is only like a small fraction of that the book that it's about, because it's about like Arab-Israel relations, and then there's this proposal in it. Very brief section. That's what I learned anyway. This movie stars Demi Moore as Diana Murphy, Woody Harrelson as David Murphy, Robert Redford as John Gage, Seymour Cassell, as Mr. Shackelford and Oliver Platt as Jeremy Green. There are some other various cameos or early roles for people in here. Maybe we'll talk about. I hope we talk about at least one of these. But Billy Bob Thornton's in here. Rip Taylor's in here. Billy Connolly, one of my favorite people, and for a very strange reason, I love Billy Connolly. Sheena Easton makes a cameo singing "The Nearness of You." Herbie Hancock's in here playing some music for us. So very interesting movie to say the least. And it looks like it's gonna be, a great movie from that cast and some of these cameos and everything. So I don't know. We'll get into it, I guess. I'm really eager to see how you feel about this movie, Joseph. The
Yeah, we'll talk about
synopsis, the synopsis for this movie. I pull these from Google. If you want my sources, it's just the synopsis that comes straight from Google search. It's David and Diana Murphy are a loving couple with a bright future. David is a talented architect. Diana is a top-notch real estate agent. But when the recession hits, their finances take a nosedive. In a last-ditch effort to save their dream home, they head to Las Vegas to win their mortgage money gambling. After they lose everything, a mysterious billionaire offers the solution to their money problems: $1 million if he can sleep with Diana. This movie has a budget. Let's get into the interesting points about this. This movie has a budget of $38 million and is a box office slam dunk. It made $266.6 million at the box office. This is one of our highest and one of the first ones that we've cracked the top 10 box office grosses for this year. This is number 6 for the year of 1993. Just crazy stuff there. This has a Rotten Tomatoes score of 34%, so one of our lowest rated movies, only being beaten by Leprechaun, our first movie of the series. And it has an IMDb rating of 6.0, again, one of our lowest ratings on here. And there's not much of a legacy to this other than there was a potential remake of this that was going to be made by Paramount as that was like the last time they talked about that was 2018. There hasn't been much development around that since, so we may or may not. I won't be surprised if it comes out as like a Paramount Plus 6-episode not indecent exposure. That's a completely different thing. Indecent proposal television show. But I'll give you a couple reviews, and then we'll get into our discussion. Joseph, thank you for patiently waiting, as always. Indecent Proposal is in a very old tradition in which love is put to the test of need and desire and triumphs in the end, although not without a great many moments when it seems quite willing to cave into passion. It is artificial and manipulative, and in the real world, this sort of thing would never happen in this way. But that's why we line up at the ticket window. We want to leave the real world for a couple of hours anyway. Roger Ebert, 3 out of 4 stars. Raj loved this one. The big Ebe man.
It's Raj.
He loved this. And then I tried to find a bad one. There were plenty of them, but I tried to find them from that time, that era. Indecent Proposal, a movie as thin as the slick veneer with which director Line covers it. Line has the stylized talent of a softcore pornographer. He choreographs his movies like languorous sex scenes. Steve Davis of the Austin Chronicle gave it 2 out of 5 stars. So I've talked a lot. Joseph, what are your thoughts? What did you think of this movie before we get into like memorable lines and scenes and stuff like that? So give me your quick whether or not you liked it or not.
Quick take. This was one of the more disappointing ones for me. I felt like there was a lot of potential starting out, and then it just kind of like fell apart. Felt really like almost like soap opera-y, like halfway through the movie, like after the thing,
The proposal.
So, and then it just like I feel like they could have gone a different direction. And I honestly thought this is my first watch of it. So I honestly thought for like a brief moment that they were going to take it in a direction that I was interested in, and then it fizzled out, and I didn't care for it very much.
I
So
feel the exact. I mean, on the whenever we do these discussions, sometimes I want to disagree, like just to have like more discourse on
like
the
opposites.
on this, so we can actually have a lot more to talk about. But like, I agree with you 100%. That is exactly how I felt. I felt like the first like 20 minutes, while it still had its flaws, was really setting us up for this very interesting movie and story, and or maybe first 30 minutes anyway, and then just kind of fizzles
Yeah.
completely. I think I set this movie up for myself. I think I set it up for everybody else wrong too. I was, claiming this as an erotic thriller, and there was nothing thrilling about it, and it's barely and it's barely erotic. There's some brief scenes, and I'm not like itching for it, but this is one of those things like, I listed off some of Line's credits at the beginning there, mostly so I could talk about it. Fatal Attraction, Unfaithful, Deep Water, even. Like, those are very sexy movies. And then also, like, very dangerous movies. Like, they're especially with Fatal Attraction and Unfaithful, there is um, there's crimes that are committed. There's some danger there. There's some stakes there, and I just never felt like I got that with this movie.
Yeah. I'd be curious to have. Did you see Deep Water,
I
the
did.
most recent
I
one?
did see Deep Water, and
Okay.
I like Deep Water. I think
Did
it's
you? Okay.
yeah, and I would be more willing to discuss that. Because I there's something about that movie that I really liked.
Okay.
That
I
I didn't get with this.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think I didn't really like Deep Water, but I think in a lot of ways I liked Deep Water better than this, which is pretty bad
It
for
was the
me. So
snails in Deep Water. That was the. If y'all haven't seen Deep Water, please go watch it just for
what
Ben
about
App.
hippos though?
But what about hippos? They really care about them in this movie. I love hippos. In the Cincinnati area, we love our hippos here at our zoo. Um, but yeah, Ben Affleck has a weird fascination with snails in deep water, and I think it really adds to the storyline. And I don't know why I like it as much as I do. Like, you're right when in your assessment of Deep Water. Um, there was something that really caught me that day. I was like, wow, this was a lot of fun. So
It, I mean, there was definitely moments, but I feel similarly having watched Deep Water last year and watching this for the first time ever this year. It was like, oh yeah, that's Lynn, like 100%.
yeah,
It felt the same.
have you seen I think I watched Fatal Attraction for the first time last year in our 365 movies. And then I've seen Unfaithful like such a long time ago.
Yeah, I know I haven't seen Unfaithful. I think I've seen Fatal Attraction before, but
Hmm.
it's been a really long time. I don't really remember much
That
about it.
movie's
So
obsessed with bunnies in that one. So
weird animal
yeah, he's
things
got some
going on.
animal things going on. I need to go back and watch Unfaithful and see if there's anything in that one.
Hmm.
Well, yeah, I do think that we're probably going to touch on some similar things here with our notes and everything. But let's go ahead and crack into it. So I broke this down. I have a lot of scenes listed out here. We can talk about each one more in depth. So first off, I have the introducing Diana, and David at the very beginning of this movie. It's heavily narrated. It talks about how they met, and this is also where you get like, I feel like really the only sex scenes in the movie are in
The
this.
first one?
Yeah, the first one is like the
Yeah.
only sex. And again, I'm not saying that I wanted like, but I feel like it was with the concept of this movie where it's about a man who offers $1 million to sleep with another man's wife. I just felt like there was going to be so much more. And another thing that Adrian Lyne does is I unlike what that second person, that second reviewer said about like the way he films sex scenes and stuff. Like I feel like that's his bread and butter. Like I don't know if that.
Strong suit.
Yeah, like that initial sex scene that between Woody Harrelson, one who I don't find to be a very sexy human being, who if I were then like watching this then, I'm thinking Woody from Cheers. I'm thinking White Man Can't Jump,
White
and
Man
like
Can't Jump,
yeah, like I think he's a good everyman kind of figure. Like I could see that guy living next door to me and be like and wave to him, when I leave my house. Like that's the kind of thing Woody Harrelson brings to me. And then you got Demi Moore, who is like a very sultry sex symbol from the 80s. She was part of like the Brat Pack era kind of those people, St. Elmo's Fire, stuff like that. But yeah, very different characters there. I don't not believe their relationship though. I feel like they seemed very real.
Yeah.
How did
I
you?
mean, out of your
Yeah.
league stuff happens every day, but it did. I mean, just on pure physical like looks, like you're looking at Woody Harrelson and Demi Moore, and like, what?
Yeah.
How's that a thing? And then especially like when Robert Redford comes into the picture,
Yeah.
like kind of in his prime,
Mm-hmm.
his Brad Pitt looking era. It's just like, yeah, it's just it. I agree with that. That not a lot there as far as like creating sexiness, but I mean the first scene was strong. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I thought that was going to be the tone for going forward, but yeah,
It just fizzles out past that point. How did you?
yeah.
Here's one thing that I did not like. There's a lot I did not like, but the initial thing within this, even like this first 30 minutes, like we both said, it was like the best parts of the movie. I hated the narration.
Yes. And they brought it back in a couple times. I'm not a big fan of that unless it's going to be throughout.
Yeah.
I think maybe when you're pulling from a literary work loosely, I guess that's more acceptable in my mind. But yeah, it's not one of my favorite things, especially like starting like that and then just gone, and then we're just gonna come back to it, you know, 45 minutes into the movie,
Yeah.
with a couple of lines. So it's I don't know, I don't like that very much.
Yeah. I think you could tell a lot more of your story by showing me more than just telling me how you. I don't know. Like you're telling
Dear
me. How,
journal.
yeah,
Dear
I
diary.
hated it. I hated that whole thing.
Yeah.
It works in movies like Goodfellas, like the narration works in Goodfellas, and I don't typically love narration. It for whatever reason it does work in Goodfellas. I don't know if it's Ray Liotta's delivery or of the lines, or if that's just simply a better movie, which it definitely is. But yeah, the narration killed me in this first. If you say it felt like the way romantic comedies are. I compare this, and this is a wild comparison because I like this movie I'm about to say, but it felt like You've Got Mail to me. That's what this movie kind of felt like to me, was You've Got Mail with weird stuff in it.
Weird version.
Yeah, this is a weird version of You've Got Mail. That was just like the tone and the narration part of it, that kind of, and the ending especially too. Like that really killed it. It just really killed me.
It's real, especially in like romance. I feel like it's like it gives it, like I said, like soap opera, like, or like a Hallmark movie type feel, like with when you're doing like the romance setup with narration. I don't really like it. It's like it's very cheesy and out of place for me.
Yeah, we're just on the same page here. This also has one of my in the sex scene. She throws his underwear on the stove and says, "Your pants are on fire."
Yes.
And he says, "You have no idea," which is supposed to imply like that he's like horned up, but like it doesn't make any sense to me at all. Like that his pants, like,
yeah,
they were trying, and I hated it.
He had no idea that they were on fire.
Yeah, he had no idea.
She had every idea because she was.
And they're trying to. Yeah, no wonder he needed to build a new house, because the one that they were currently living in is burning down around them.
Burning your house down. Yeah.
And then the recession hits.
Love the line though.
Yeah, the line. Oh my god.
Made no sense,
It
but it was
makes no sense to me. And then the recession hits, and of course, if you're in the housing market, that's just going to be terrible. So if you're an architect or a real estate agent, it's going to hit you really hard, as we've seen,
yeah,
in the past few years, or even when you and I both got out of college. It was a pretty terrible time. So we get recessions. I
yeah.
understand. So they get this.
Especially both being
Oh
housing,
yeah,
like
it's crazy, and
that's
like in the
doubling.
middle of building your house too, and then like the market drops out. That's got to be, even though I think that house is ugly.
Was there like a silo or something attached to that house? Like
Yeah,
when he
I
had
would.
the
I'd be curious to go back and look at like early 90s, late 80s house architecture and like what the trendy styles were. It can't be that though. That house was awful looking.
yeah, I don't know anything about architecture, but when we finally got to like the model where he was like spinning around over and over, I was like, bro, what?
Yeah, it
This is your
was.
dream house? It looks like a factory
It
building or
did. It did.
something.
It looked very. And I could be completely wrong on it.
Smokestack.
Somebody. I
Yeah, I
would
don't know.
love for somebody to come in and correct me and be like, "I'm
Where's our
actually."
architecture
I
experts?
know I don't have any this time. No architecture experts around here. But anyway, they decide, hey, let's take what little money we have left. Things that you can play in Vegas. I feel like odds wise, and see how much money we can win. Sounds like something you'd do. You're a gambler, aren't you? Can you hear me? Hello, hello, hello. That's okay. We might have lost Joseph here. Yeah, we've seems like we've lost him. That might be a connection issue on my part. So let's see here. We'll get him back, or maybe you all have lost me. Hold on just a second, Joe. I can see you bobbing and weaving there, but I can't hear you talking. So that tells me that you can't hear me either. All right, let me see if I can push him out and push him back in and see if we can't get anything going here. Let's see. Joseph, are you there? Can you hear me? I apologize for this. Let's see what's going on here. It, again, could be some issues on my end of things. So let's see if I can't figure this out. Let me just try something else here. All right. Well, we'll get Joseph back here in a second and see what's going on with the connection here as we talk more and more about indecent exposure. I apologize again for everything, but if you have any questions during this time while I get everything kind of figured out and restarted, let's see, if you have any questions or anything about what we're doing here for the 52/1993 podcast, just let me know. And we'll answer those questions in chat as I get this all ready. And if for whatever reason you can't hear me, please do let me know. Get this all ready. And sometimes it's we run into these things, and you can't help but have it. You kind of go with the flow, especially when we do stuff like this live. That's a big deal. So let's see if I can see Joe and see if I can hear him.
Hello,
Hello.
I can hear you again.
Hey, okay, I got you now. Let's see what's going on. All right. I think you were probably making some really, really good points, and we missed every single one of them.
because you were fixing things. Yeah, I didn't know what to do,
Because,
so I just kind of started going.
well, I'm glad that you're back. That's all that
Yeah,
matters.
yeah, I'm glad to be back. It was very hard the
um,
next day.
so we started talking about the Vegas stuff. So if I missed out on something, please forgive me. Go ahead with what you were talking about and give
Oh,
it to me again because I don't think we caught it.
yeah, I was just making a comment about like the decision there to, take the last bit of money and go to Vegas. Probably not the best idea ever. Um, but
You've
then,
done that before, though.
well, not with like I mean, if I'm being completely honest, I really enjoy gambling. I don't know if that's the right time to do that when you're like what they 50 grand in debt, taking your 5 grand that you borrowed from your dad to the tables there. But I
If
was
my dad
also
if
making
my
a
dad gave
hit
me
on the
5 grand, I
price.
would do it.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
immediately.
This is a plea to my father. Hey, if you've got 5 grand extra, I'll spend it.
If you're watching, my
If you're
memo.
watching, which you're not. But it starts out really good for them because they end up winning about $25,000. Um, but that's not 50, and they need more before, and so they decide that they're going to bet that the rest of that money and try and win that the next day. This also gives us a scene, a very and like the last like sexy scene of the movie, even though I found it kind of disgusting, where Demi Moore is just like rolling around on the bed, just covered in money. I think we've all dreamt of doing that. Maybe not, but I feel like that's a common thing that people want to do. It's disgusting. You're
Yeah,
sick people. You're dirty.
I would agree. I do think it's like a weird like fantasy a lot of people have, like sort of like swimming or having sex or sleeping in money, but money is like
It's
really
bec-
gross.
Scrooge McDuck really screwed over a generation of children. I've
The
always wanted to
diving
swim
board?
in a pool of coins. Yeah, but that's never gonna happen.
No.
Um, I would, yeah, roll around in money. Um,
Also, then you have to clean it
Demi,
up. Like if someone else is
yes.
stacking
Uh,
it back up for me, maybe we can talk about it, but then you have to like reorganize it and everything. I'm not interested.
is the equivalent today me laying a debit card on a bed and just rolling over top of it?
Maybe a couple credit cards too. Yeah,
Okay, a
if you
couple
have a
credit
couple of
cards.
cards,
Maybe a laptop
gift
that
cards.
has your crypto wallet on it. On
Yes, I
I'm
want
just gonna
to.
roll
I
around
want
on
to
it.
just roll around in blockchain. Give it to me.
Exactly. Yeah, you have to do it all virtually. You get in the metaverse and then
In the
you roll
meta.
around on your. Yes, that's how we do it now. Definitely. Well, it was all for naught because they lose it all the next day. Going on. Okay, here's another thing about this casino that they're in Las Vegas, which should be like the most professional casino of all time. They change their bet like 3 times once that ball is released. I'm pretty sure when you're playing roulette, you cannot touch your bets after that ball is released.
And she tried to grab it after the fact, and the dealer was like, "No," like grabbed her
Yeah, that
hand.
was like the most realistic part of it. That
She
made
would
me
have been
so mad. I'm not
out.
even a gambler, but I know better.
Yeah. Also, it really
Don't you be
bugged me.
touching those.
Yeah, it also really bugged me that he did like so great at craps, and then like the next day didn't go back to craps. It's like, why would you like mix it up, bro?
They want they wanted to go red or black, which I think is the super dangerous.
I mean, I guess it's
Especially going.
good. I don't know. I would stick with the hot streak. That would be me.
Yeah,
But
I'd find those ladies that he was hanging out with at the craps
exactly,
tables. They were
they were
hot.
killing
They
it.
were throwing the dice hot. He was throwing the dice hot. Yeah, I think. I also don't know if they knew how to play craps the way that they were playing. I barely know. I've had a friend tell me how to play craps once upon a time, and I forgot. But we used to play it on our back porch.
Oh yeah,
I don't know
I
if
know
you were.
some.
I don't know if you were a part of that. Do you remember when we played the craps there?
No.
We would throw the dice on the back porch. It was great.
And all I remember is the Liar's Dice. I don't think I ever played anything
Oh,
else. Wow, you
I
guys play
missed out on
craps?
some. You
Man,
Yeah, I'll have to talk to your brother and see if he remembers when we played craps.
I hope so. I want to hear about
Uh,
it.
all after I don't know if this happens after they lose all their money, but Diana meets John Gage, who is Robert Redford's character, in a store. She's like trying on this dress, and I think this is a really good scene. I like this scene. One because I think uh, Demi looks great in this scene, and like has the dress, like she puts the dress on over top of her clothes, and like John goes in there and he's already kind of seen her from afar and been like, this lady, I'm in.
Stealing
um
chocolates. That's
yeah,
when
stealing
he
chocolates.
saw
He
it.
saw her
And
steal
she's like,
chocolate. Are they are
handfuls.
they open chocolates? It just
Yeah,
seemed like just like
that bugged me the most about the scene. You're in like a high end $5,000 dress place with just open chocolates. Like people are just like munching on those and then touching everything. Like, come on, that doesn't happen. There's no way. Even in the
she
90s.
filled it. And you don't fill up your purse with chocolates. Like these aren't
Open chocolate.
M&Ms.
Yeah,
They're
it was
not gonna
ridiculous.
stay in the. Yeah, no, I hated that too. Um, and then that we get a part in here that's John Gage wants to buy that dress for her, and she says the dress is for sale. I'm not. A little bit of foreshadowing there. I love that. And then after this, they kind of happen upon this billionaire, mystery billionaire guy playing. Is he playing poke or is he playing black? I don't know what game he's playing. It looks like blackjack, I think.
Yeah, I think it was. I don't know, some poker, blackjack, something.
Something, yeah.
Yeah,
I feel like it was blackjack at first, and then he loses. We also this is where we get Billy Bob Thornton, who gives us
yeah,
the rundown. He gives us the entire like explanation about who John Gage is. Um, Basically says that guy's got to be rolling in it, women kind of thing. So it gets us set up for this guy's a playboy. He can have any girl he wants, kind of thing. And then he asks, "Would you mind lending me your wife to Woody Harrelson?" And Woody, being a gentleman, says it's up to her, and she chooses to go over there. And then John Gage loses $1 million on one hand. Insane. And then I think he takes her over to the craps table, and they win all that money back. He gets another million changed out for chips, and then wins a $2 million on the craps table with Demi Moore by his side being his lucky charm. So,
yeah.
do you have anything else about Billy Bob Thornton's character?
Man, he comes in hot, and
He
just
does.
some very loose lips. That's not the right phrase I'm looking for. He says things in a very kind of derogatory way, I would say.
Yeah, I was gonna put the quotes on here, but then I was like, I don't want to say that. I don't
Same,
want to say
same.
any of this stuff.
I was like, as he was saying, I was like, nah, we'll just leave it at that. Very surprised to see him
I
though. Like, there was a couple other him and a couple others that you mentioned that just kind of pop up, and I was like, what? What are you doing here?
Yeah, I really like it. He was as Billy Bob as you can be.
Yes.
In that, like he was perfect, and I'm glad that we got years of Billy Bob Thornton after that. That pretty much comes straight
Honestly.
from yeah, it's a very honest character for him. He doesn't even have a name in the movie. He's just called Day Tripper in the casting list. So I love that to see him here. I love his earring that he has. He's
Yes.
great. Just perfect. But after this is when we get the indecent proposal. John Gage approaches them and basically, says, "I would like to spend the night with your wife for $1 million." And this sets in motion the all the consequences of this movie, and basically gives that next night they think about it and they're like weighing their options, and they go from "we're not going to do it, you're a crazy person" to being like, "Well, if you want to, I wouldn't mind if you
Do you want me to? It was yeah.
do you want yeah, it was a lot of that back and forth. And I mean, it's one of those situations, I don't know. I mean, we can talk about it later.
Yeah.
Would you or would you not? But they ultimately do agree on it, and he picks her up in a helicopter and takes her out to his yacht. And Woody Harrelson. I mean, there's a whole like contract negotiation scene in this with their lawyer, played by Oliver Platt. Always glad to see Oliver Platt show up in this. He gets a 5% fee. He make sure that everything is taken care of. Like if Robert Redford can't perform, they still get the money, or if he dies in the act, they still get the money. A lot of good contract negotiation stuff there. Love Oliver Platt. And so Woody actually has a like moment of clarity, and does not want her to do it, and starts like running after and going to the top of the building, which I'm sure he's not allowed to do, but this isn't about realism, it's a movie, and just misses that helicopter. And so Demi Moore is transported out to the yacht, where she meets up with John Gage, and he's very gentlemanly, I would say. I think she's wearing the dress too that he had initially said that he buy her, or that he wanted to buy her, and he gives her the option. He's like, "You don't have to do this," and she's like, "Well, I'm here. Let's do this." He's like, "Let's flip a coin for it," which is the most messed up thing I've ever seen in my life. Even though I get it, like she was gonna do it regardless, but he's like, "Heads, we go through with it. Tails, we don't do anything."
Yeah.
And of course, it lands on heads, and that's it. Maybe I fell asleep. I've been doing that sometimes. Did I miss the sex scene?
The which one? Oh no, with him.
Yeah, there's
You did not.
no scene. Yeah,
The
she
most
just shows back
confusing
up to
thing about the entire movie.
yeah, she just shows back up at the hotel the next day, and they're like, "We're not gonna talk about it. That's it. Let's take our $1 million and get out of here." So that's what happens, and it starts to like eat away at them, because Woody just kind of gets more jealous. He keeps finding these things, like a card with John Gage's number on it. And also they find out that $1 million that they got, they actually lost the house. It was, foreclosed, and somebody bought up the land and everything. And so Woody and Demi end up fighting, a lot. And then I don't know, before they break up, I think John Gage has been creeping on her a little bit, like shows up at her work. He is actually the one that they find out bought the land that they were trying to pay for and get their house back from. He actually bought it, and he's like, "Hey, you need to work for me. You need to be my real estate lady." And she keeps dismissing him, but it leads to Demi and Woody eventually breaking up. And then John wears Demi down to where she's like, "Yeah, why not? My guy sucked, so I'm going to go to this billionaire that was actually really, really good at sex, that I made sure to tell my husband that he was great at." So they have that. And David, Woody, does not take this very well. He kind of goes down a sad path. He does end up like following them around a little bit. He shows up drunk outside of their dinner or something, and takes a swing at John at one point. And this is also another time where I was like, this movie's about to go in a different direction, because they've already set up this chauffeur whose name is what was his name again?
Shackelford.
Mr. Shackelford, as being this like kind of scary. He killed a guy for me once, is what he said earlier in the movie. So this chauffeur picks up Woody and like takes him home, and I'm thinking this would be an interesting twist right now, and nothing happens. Yeah, Deepwater, a little Deepwater action going on, and then nothing happens at all. He just takes him home. He like tucks him in. He makes sure everything's good. He can tell like that this guy really does love his wife, or his ex-wife, and yeah. So This also leads to like there's divorce that starts to happen between the lawyer. She doesn't want the money. He doesn't want the money. The lawyer says a line that I love. She says, "Davey," she says she doesn't want the money, and David says, "Well, I don't want the money either." And Jeremy goes, "I'll take it. I mean, nobody else wants it." Also, a great comedy from Oliver Platt there. And then this leads to the auction that we see. Well, I skipped around a little bit. David actually becomes a better person. He uses this time to become a better person. He becomes a teacher and like gets his life together a little bit more. And then figures out he's like, well, I lost Diana, so I'm just gonna get my life together and make one last kind of attempt. He shows up at this auction. He's got the $1,000,000, and this auction is to buy animals. I'm sure it's like adopting animals. But there's a bid for what I don't even remember, like 50 grand for these hippos. And then Woody just, throws out the $1,000,000 bid there. I think he's, if somebody bids him up 1,000,001, he's screwed.
Right. Playing around. But
I know. I mean,
pretty low bar.
Overbid those.
He like, yeah, it jumped from like 50 to 1,000,000. So I mean,
yeah.
I think it was pretty safe.
Also, a great cameo by Billy Connolly here as the auctioneer, who's just like throwing out jokes. And if you don't know who Billy Connolly is, he's a comic actor from Scotland. I know him best from two movies specifically. The one is Boondock Saints. He's the father of the Boondock Saints boys. So he's in that movie. And then the second thing I know him from the most, and I've seen him show up in other movies and television shows and stuff like that, is Muppet Treasure Island, which is one of the greatest movies ever made.
I thought you were gonna say Boondock Saints too.
Boondock Saints 2. No, definitely as a very crucial character in Muppet Treasure Island who kind of sets that story in motion. What now? Oh, yeah, that's in my top 4 on Letterboxd. Oh, yeah, that's my top 4. If you've ever go to my top 4 on Letterboxd, it's kind of a joke for anybody that's seen it. It's Boogie Nights, Muppet Treasure Island, Muppets in Space, and I think the Muppets Great Muppet Caper as my top 4 movies. That's not my real top 4, but it's a funny top 4.
But you can't argue with any of those 4, really, can you?
No. They're all kind of very similar movies in my eyes.
Oh my gosh.
So we get the auction, and this is kind of where David gives up. Not gives up, but like, he's kind of the better man. You be with him, signs the divorce papers. And this is also when Diana's like, oh, he actually did love me. And so we get this whole, she kind of slips into a little bit of a depression of this. Like, oh, he really does love me. Even though now I've got everything I could ever want, all the money, dresses, everything that I could ever want in my life. And this guy that actually really does like me, but kind of realizes that she wants to go back to her husband. So they're driving Diana and John are driving in their limo. And at one point, I don't know I think Diana says something about going back to David. And I think John realizes that she's not in love with him like he wants her to be. So he makes up this story about, oh, well, you lasted longer than any of the other girls. And he has this conversation with his chauffeur about this, and the chauffeur's kind of taken back. He's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, oh, yeah, the $1 Million Club. You've been the best one, essentially. And I think she realizes that he's lying to try and make her feel better. And she gives him a kiss and then like gets out of the car and then runs to find David at the pier where they first met. And then they kind of have a very sweet scene where they're not looking at each other, but they're back to back on a bench on this pier. And she says the line, "Have I ever told you that I love you?" Which is like their inside joke special love thing, which I did think was cute. I did like that. and the movie kind of ends there, of them getting back together. And so that is the Indecent Proposal, plot, synopsis, and everything. What did I miss? What are some things that I've missed? Some scenes, some lines, um, that I did
Yeah,
not talk about.
I would be interested to know um, what the kind of moment was for you, and since we've had so much similar thought, where you thought it could like really go in a better direction, and we'll see if it matches up with what I think. Because
I
there was like a
think
scene for me that I was like, okay, here we go.
mine is the scene where he takes a swing at David or John.
Okay,
That scene, that is where I think the movie is like has a decision to make whether it's going to be an erotic thriller like I initially thought this movie was going to be, or if it was going to be this just like love story, and I think it chose different
yeah,
than I would have
okay.
done.
Mine was earlier, but similar like sort of thing. I thought this was my favorite scene in the whole movie, and I really it gave me a moment of hope where I thought I was going to really enjoy this movie. Um, when he gets back down to the casino from the helicopter leaving, like we missed the helicopter, she's getting carried off to the boat. He gets back down into the casino into like this room where all these people are watching a horse race, and it's just like
Oh,
rows and
great
rows and
scene.
rows and rows of TVs and a big TV, and the
Mm-hmm.
music is like really like kind of loud and electronic and chaotic, and he's like just kind of like frantically walking through these rows of TVs and stuff. I thought at that moment this was going to turn into him like going crazy and trying to like find this guy and like track him down and kill him kind of thing. And it didn't obviously, but
I
that was
forgot
like
all about that scene.
I love that scene, and I was like, oh man, he's gonna just lose it, and like this is gonna be like a rescue. He's gonna be like, I regret this, I'm gonna kill you,
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. But yeah, we didn't go that way.
Yeah, it did
Uh,
do that. That was like one of the. It was a weird shot for the rest of the movie. Like,
Very
uh,
different, yeah. And like
it it also gave me Uncut Gems vibes a little bit at that point. Like the
okay,
end of Uncut Gems when she's at the casino putting the bets in and everything. It gave me a little bit of those vibes during that specific
yeah.
scene. Um,
Yeah, it was
it
very
also felt
different, and I
very
thought it was changing like pace and tone and everything. But yeah,
yeah. And like with the synth music, that electronic synth music behind it, it felt like a Michael Mann film, like Thief that I made you watch, or Heat, Collateral. It kind of felt like it was supposed to be in one of those movies, and that would have been
yeah.
a way more interesting movie. I would watch Indecent Proposal directed by Michael Mann any
Ooh.
day,
You think you
because
should
it
have picked up
probably
those
would have
names?
some it would have had some like murder in it, maybe some stealing. It would have been great. I think it would have been great. Um, I have another line here by the lawyer, by Oliver Platt's character, that I want to make sure that I think we've all said when we've thought about this movie and the concept of this movie. Jeremy, the lawyer, and friend, says, "For $1,000,000, I'd sleep with him." And it's Robert Redford, and he's like at his weird, like, I'm in my 50s, late 50s, maybe early 60s, sexy, like you were saying, like Brad Pitt vibe, like I because I think their careers are very similar too. They often get compared to each other a lot. But yeah, like for $1,000,000, I'd sleep with Robert Redford. Yeah, why not?
Especially like in the 90s. Even in the 90s, like I mean, $1 million today is maybe not not as much as enticing, but
I,
back
I
then,
did happen upon a thread that was talking about, for like inflation and everything, it's like 2.2 million or something like that now. Or
okay.
I saw some adjusted rates. We don't have Spencer here to really give us the
Ooh,
inflation talk, but
but
I'm
twice
sure
as
I can
much
figure that
at
out for him.
least.
Yeah, so it's worth it'd be worth, I you know It's not a
Think about it twice.
$1 million is not. Yeah. Money's just not like it used to be. Do you have any other scenes that I missed out on, or anything that any lines that you wanted to talk about?
There was like a weird moment. Well, my favorite moment of the whole movie. I'll start with that. But there is another weird moment I wanted to just mention. My favorite moment of the whole movie, and you won't be surprised by this at all, knowing me. When they first get to the fancy hotel room that he puts him up in after she like wins the $1 million, he's like, "Oh, let's stay in the hotel to keep him around," kind of thing. Before the
Mm-hmm.
actual proposal, there's a horse statue, a horse head statue in the hotel
Oh
room,
yes.
and Woody Harrelson's character puts it in the bed and turns to Demi Moore's character and says, "What do you think, Godfather?"
I did.
That
I
was
did
like
like that.
my biggest lull point of the whole movie.
Yes. I
Uh,
think another thing that I want to point out, just to go ahead and make everybody uncomfortable that's listening to this, the
yes.
sexiest moment of this movie is that sex scene at the very beginning of the movie. Because, like I said, there's only like two of them, but they're like making out on the floor. This is when like she throws his pants onto the thing and everything. There's like a scene where she is like kissing all over him, and like she like grabs him,
Full
like
on, yeah.
grabs him, and I was like, "Oh, okay." And then I was like, that was a little toasty. I was thinking that we were going to get a very, very toasty movie, and we did not.
Yeah,
So I just wanted to put that out there to the world. That
yeah. I don't watch like I don't really watch a lot of stuff that has like a lot of real racy stuff in it generally, but like that first sex scene, I was like, man, what am I getting into here? Like this is
yeah,
whew.
I thought I was going to get Basic Instinct kind of stuff here, and I did
Right,
not.
yeah. And yeah, that it was kind of like a misleader, kind of like how when you see like a new HBO show, like the first season has tons of nudity to like grab
Yep,
people in, and
to
then like
grab you in. That's what
just
they
kind of
did. They
fall
gave
back.
us the old HBO treatment.
Yeah, you wonder like what the box office would have been without that scene. I'm just saying.
That's true. I mean, it still blows my mind that this movie, an R-rated movie, um, with this kind of synopsis or plot line, would it do this well today?
No.
Definitely not. But like, it's insane to think about how much money this movie made. I mean,
Yeah.
in comparison to the other movies that I looked up, it's like uh, Mrs. Doubtfire, so a comedy. Jurassic Park, I think, was the number one that year. I'm just trying
Spoiler.
to think of some of the other. There's a bunch of action movie. Yeah, sorry for everybody that cares about that, but it's a bunch of action movies, and um, there's Aladdin's up there somewhere. Uh, a drama in there somewhere, but like for the most part, it is these kind of thriller actiony, and that still kind of rings true to the box office today. You don't often see movies like this make it very high on the list of 1993 movies. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a
To
weird
your
one.
point, I think Deep Water's Journey speaks to that straight to Hulu
Yeah,
versus like a theatrical release.
they
I think
don't
that's
make a
the
movie.
difference.
They
Yeah.
Yeah, major studios don't make these kind of movies anymore, and don't make straight dramas as much as they used to anymore. I mean, and even the movies that we see that are coming from these smaller studios like an A24 or Neon or anything like that are all very unique in their they're not these straightforward dramas like we used to have in the 90s, and you'll see a lot of that as we continue throughout the rest of this year and go through some of the other movies that we're talking about. Like, you're gonna see, be like, man, they don't make them like they used to. They don't do this. I mean, even the cartoon movies that we watch, like Aladdin, I think came out the year before this. Is one of the biggest movies of the year. Like, they don't make Aladdins like they used to. I guess they make Pixar movies or Frozen's or anything, but they all feel very formulaic. and they kind of know what they're going to do. We're going to put out a Marvel movie this month. We're going to put out a, Top Gun kind of, came back with a vengeance this past year and kind of showed what good big action movies are supposed to look like.
Right.
And not have always comic book characters. No, but that's another discussion. So, anything else that I'm missing before I move over to my fun facts?
Let's see. I've loved all the scenes with Oliver Platt, like you did. I thought he was a really nice touch. We didn't talk about the other cameo, specifically Rip Taylor. That was probably the most shocking one for me. Just kind of
It's
because that
weird to
was her
see him without
boss,
his wig.
right? I think I had to do like not even a double take, but like a triple take, and be like, is that no? And but yep,
Yeah, it just
very
this
strange,
wild bald man with a crazy mustache and
very tame, like very normal, small part, like just surprising. Uh,
yeah, I didn't read anything about him getting that role in the movie, but uh, I'm sure there was some reason how he got that part because it's just a weird one-off part.
yeah, very very strange choice out of place. Seemed like. Um, the other person that I noticed, which was is a really deep cut, and probably no one else would care or notice. In the citizenship class, the character that plays Abed's dad from Community was one of the students. So there you go.
Oh, okay, good pool. Wow,
I recognized the face,
I
and it took me a while to find it.
I never would have gotten that one,
It was
at
very
all.
brief.
And also, like, I kept like trying to stay awake during. I think it was during those scenes. Like, I was just like, this movie just keeps going on, and I
Yeah.
cannot. It just kind of lost my interest. But there's some really interesting things about this movie that we'll talk about. So one, Woody Harrelson was very uncomfortable with any of the sex scenes that he had with Demi Moore because he was really good friends with Demi Moore's then husband Bruce Willis. Adrian Lyne and Demi Moore fought a lot on set. Woody Harrelson would be like the mediator, trying to get him to stop fighting so they could film this movie. Because Adrian Lyne wanted Demi Moore's character to show more vulnerability. And then as he was going through the edit of this movie, he figured out that she was right, and that Adrian Lyne then later apologized to her after like kind of going through the edit of the movie. I don't think Bruce Willis was into it, as somebody in chat just mentioned. But you never know. You never know. I don't know. Robert Redford kept missing his cues in the auction scene. He was actually like supposed to leave the auction scene a couple times, and he kept missing those cues because he kept listening to the jokes that Billy Connolly was saying. So
I
love
love
Billy Connolly.
that.
Here's where I found like the most interesting stuff, and it was around kind of the casting of this movie, and I think it does change things a lot. Uh, this was meant, and I think written and originally conceived to be a Tom Cruise, Nicole Kidman, and Warren Beatty movie, and I think that cast I'm into. Not that I didn't think that like I don't think any of the performances were bad in the movie. Like I think everybody kind of held their own and did what they were supposed to. I just didn't, really like the story and didn't think that it was good.
Yeah.
But I think Tom Cruise, Nicole Kidman, Warren Beatty, you're getting a different movie here, and you're getting something more along the lines of like an Eyes Wide Shut, that
Yeah.
esque that we get at the end of the '90s here. Um,
It's opposite end of the spectrum.
Yeah. Couple other notables that turned down roles. John Cusack and Charlie Sheen both turned down the role of David before it went to Woody Harrelson. Weird that those two men would get the leading role. I think John Cusack in it. I don't think I could see Charlie Sheen in that role. Um,
No.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think he's like too into. I don't know. He's too funny of a like actor at that point. I know he had done like Platoon and Wall Street and stuff, but I just at that point I'm like, no, I only want to see him do funny roles like Hot Shots or Major
Yes.
League. Julia Roberts turned down the role that went to Demi Moore. So
Mm. I mean, she already did
she
Pretty
was a
Woman.
hot
So.
name at the time. Yeah. And I wonder, and Julia Roberts has always been one of those people that has been very like, I am not going to do nudity. I'm not going to,
Oh
film
yeah,
sex scenes, stuff like that. So I don't know if she did it because of the nature of the film. But again, it's a very tame movie when you get down to it. Like Demi Moore was also like that, and she's like, I don't want to do this movie if it's just filled with, sex and nudity and everything. And after she watched like the scenes, they gave her full like override over like what they could cut and stuff, what she wanted cut from the sex scenes and stuff like that. And after watching the movie, she was like, "No, that's fine." So I
they
don't
gave her
know.
that. Yeah, I mean there was a
Yeah,
lot of nits. So if Julia's not gonna be revealing anything, then yeah, I could see her turning that
but
down.
you can make a sexy movie that is not like full of nudity and everything. Like I've seen, I would have to rack my brain to think of a very like sexy, sensual movie that doesn't show anything. But I'm sure I could come up with a list of them. You have any other? Do you have any facts or anything? I didn't. I didn't really go too deep into this one to learn any more because I didn't care to.
Yeah, I kind of similar vibes, just because I didn't enjoy it as much. It's always more fun to research the ones that you like. Um,
Yeah.
did want to bring up the whole he Robert Redford's character John does like a speech to her at one point as part of like the sort of seduction that's like basically completely jacked from Citizen Kane. Um, so
Yeah.
I think that was intentional and supposed to be like kind of hinting that he wasn't completely genuine in his pursuit of her. But some people
Mm-hmm.
like I read some reviews online that like went crazy and said like, "Oh, plagiarism! Like, what's going on here?" Like, so I don't know. I don't know what I don't know which side it falls on. I think it was
Yeah.
intentional.
I wonder. That's interesting. I wouldn't call it plagiarism. I would just call it like, one, you have to determine, does Citizen Kane exist in the universe of Indecent Proposal? So is he quoting Citizen Kane, or is this Robert Redford just being like super cinephile that loves movies and was just like given free reign to tell a story, and he just chose that monologue from Citizen Kane,
He loves it.
and
Good point.
yeah, just loves it that much, and they're like, yeah, you can do that. It's not plagiarism. People suck. People are stupid. Hate this movie for the right reasons.
Yeah, I saw a lot of like one stars. So like, plagiarism straight out of Citizen Kane. I was like, okay, you're being extra
That's
right now.
dumb. That is
And
being
it was just
very
like a
extra
chance
right now.
encounter story, anyways, which is like I don't think
Yeah.
Kane has the rights to that type of a situation. So,
No,
um,
I don't think so either.
but it was very similar. So
Yeah. I don't know. How could you? So before I tell mine, how would you make it better?
uh, got like the last half plus of the movie and just do it differently. I I don't think it lends itself very well to like a romantic type story, which it tried really hard to be. I think Robert Redford's character John like tried to present himself as like a gentleman the whole time, even though he was very intentionally breaking up this couple and trying to be with her. And then the end made no sense that he just was like, oh, she'll never look at me the same way, so I have to let her go. Like, it just, I don't know. The whole story
I
for like the second half of the movie was just not believable and not
s-
fun.
spot
Like,
on, so spot on. Like that is exactly what I wrote down. I even went as far as to be like, I don't like the casting of like, if you're gonna give me Robert Redford in that role, I almost feel like he's too nice because he's trying to make that like he's trying to have that balance of being like one breaking up this couple and then two being that gentleman. So like I don't like Robert Redford in that role. like
Yeah.
seeing that Warren Beatty was pitched as this, I can see that a little bit more. Not that Warren Beatty's like this bad guy by any means, but like he's good looking, so you've got that. But I feel like he's got a more villainous look to him and attitude than Robert Redford, to where he pulls off that role a little bit better. So, like, I wish that that character was a little bit more villainous than what they gave us there, and like, uh, that
Yeah.
way I think that whole like faking the fake or like the $1 million club thing, I feel like when he makes that story up it comes off better or truer. And maybe she like I didn't like it. I did not like that part at all. um I also and I think we talked about this, like the fact that we were waiting for the shoe to drop and like him to become this jealous murderous husband, or uh, Robert Redford takes out the husband or some, whatever. Like we were expecting so much more of like a thriller. And again, I don't know if I set that up for myself or set that up for you to in that vein, but I think it would have been a better movie if it wasn't a romance movie. It wasn't like Summersby is a better romance movie than this movie, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think mm, that would be hard to officially decide on without rewatching both of these, which I don't really want to do. So,
I'm not gonna do it.
toss up. Yeah, toss up for me. But very similar feelings. Like, just like, why is it a romance angle like forced throughout? And the ending of this one was just, it made no sense to me. Like that whole like he's lying and she knows it and she's accepting it and he knows it, and like that, it didn't make any sense. And then
Yeah.
also, did they just like move on from that? Like this is something they can recover from?
Yeah, I think they're like all of a sudden like I was upset with the fact that she slept with him once. How many times has she slept with him now? Like she's been with this guy forever. Now it's like, are you gonna just bring that up and be like, well, why don't you just go back to John Gage, your
Yeah.
billionaire boyfriend? Like how
Uh,
is that relationship? They break up in a couple months.
yeah, I think they have to. Like that, it just like the ending made it seem so false. Like, oh, all is forgiven. We just got divorced, but I guess we're gonna undivorce now. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
I don't, it was stupid.
Also we get the reveal at the end. I forgot about this, that the coin that he flipped on the boat
Oh yeah,
was a double sided coin. Like what a shit!
he was
Like
two faced
everything
the
is
whole
just
time.
shady. Yeah, yeah. It's just too. It's so ridiculous, and like I know the point of it is I had a double sided coin, but you didn't want to leave anyway because you showed up. Like even if it would have been tails, you still would have been like, well, let's do it anyway. Kind of like I know that's the intention of it, but no. He was creepy. He wasn't as sexy as you that people might have thought he was, and like suave as they thought he was. Left a little bad taste in my mouth for Robert Redford. I'll get over it. I'll watch Winter Soldier, where he's a good villain. Um,
Good point.
Good point. Great point. And I'll just move on from this and watch other better Robert Redford movies, and
Yeah, I think you've got
we'll go from
quite a few choices. I'm not familiar with like a ton of his work, but of the ones I've seen, like not my favorite. And no fault to
definitely
him.
not.
Like, I mean, he didn't. His acting was fine, um, and he looked great. But I just the role. I'm sad that he was a part of it.
Yeah. I would ditch the narration. Um,
Oh, one.
that's another one. That's an easy one, but I would ditch the narration. Get rid of that stuff. But other than that, I think that's it. I just expected higher stakes.
Yeah,
I wanted more stakes there, and there wasn't anything. And I wanted to like somebody, and I didn't. So it's unfortunate. I really wanted to like this movie, but I did not. So if you gave it a rating, what rating did you give it?
I think because of the potential, I'm probably giving it a little bit of a higher rating than maybe I should. I did give it a 2.5. So
That's what I gave it. 2.5. See, we were just dead on the same page for this whole movie, and I'm pretty sure I've talked to other people about this. That's the same rating that they gave it to. It's like are really around there. Um, can't I? Yeah, I think I gave it a little bit higher than it deserves. I'm
Yeah,
with you.
yeah. I don't think that any of the acting was necessarily bad. I thought this is like that era when Demi looks really great. Woody Harrelson did a great job for kind of a role that he's not necessarily like known for across his career. I mean, I think,
Mm-hmm.
um, and there was some great cameos. Like, so there were some good moments and stuff. I did laugh some, but just overall, it was flat. Um, that was my big takeaway.
Not rewatchable to me at all. I'm not
No,
gonna watch this movie ever again.
no. Um, I did have a question in some of my research. You had mentioned, and I don't know if you were serious or not, but the VHS that's playing behind you, is that actually
Mm.
Indecent Proposal?
It is. Yeah,
Is it a is it
it
a color
definitely is.
cassette?
Is it a
Like
what?
is it a is the VHS colored?
Yeah.
Is it what color? Is it green?
Oh no! Oh, that's what you were talking. I thought you were talking about whether it was in black and white or
Oh
color. I
no,
was like, yeah, it's in color.
no. The
No,
actual like
the V.
VHS.
Unfortunately, it is not green. Yeah, I
Okay.
had read that too. It was very interesting. I don't remember those VHSs being different. Like Ghost was one of the other ones that was a different color VHS.
Yeah.
But no, mine's just plain Jane black. So
Okay. I was just curious. As somebody who like kind of collects weird things, I was just wondering. After I saw that, I was like, very strange, like '90s moment where they have like a five set of colored VHSs.
yeah, it's
So I was
so
wondering if
weird.
you had one.
No,
No,
unfortunately, that would be great. I need to go looking for him now. No, I don't want this movie anymore.
gotta catch them all, you know.
Gotta catch them all. Exactly. Well, I think that kind of ends the discussion that we have on Indecent Proposal, the number 6 movie of 1993. Weird choice, America. Don't know what you were doing there. Um, so yeah, I don't think I have anything else. But again, thank you to you, Joe. It's always a pleasure to have you. I'm sorry that I feel like I've not given you the best movies to talk about, but I haven't given you like
Indeed.
bad ones. Dead Alive was pretty
Total
fun.
life,
So
dude. Yeah, I think
Dead
that
Alive's
looking at the whole year, I think that I mean personally, I think that that might stay my number one. Which there's some
Dead
pretty stiff
Alive's pretty
competition.
amazing. Yeah. So, well, again, thank you for getting on here and doing this with me. I really appreciate it. And I'll let you get back to your day. So, thank you so much, man.
Thanks. See you next time.
See ya. All right. Before I let you all go, I'm going to go ahead and reveal next week's show. It's going to be a new one, fun one that a lot of people have probably already seen. And we'll have a new guest on next week. So you won't have to see just the same old people that I know you do like to see and that I really like to talk to all the time. So we'll have a new guest next week. And next week's episode will be about the movie The Sandlot. Baseball kids movie. Like I said, we quote it all the time, so I expect a really good discussion with this one next week. So we'll see you then. Next week is also Oscar Sundays, so we might be talking about some of the Oscars or the potential of what is going to win that night as we go off. So. Or we might talk about the Oscars the following week and see what won and really discuss that in the last couple segments here. So, again, thank you all for participating and watching along with me. I really appreciate it. Keep up with me on social media at CD Waits. You can also follow my letterbox. It's the exact same account there as well. And then you can find my list for the rest of 52/1993. And you can follow along with us for every episode following. So, with that, I look forward to seeing you then, and I hope you have a good rest of your evening. And if you're listening to this later, I hope you enjoyed this podcast, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.